Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you inspiration, transformation, and leadership. We're helping you connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck so you can go out and generate more leads, more sales, more profits. More importantly, so you can go out and have a bigger reach, a bigger impact, and make a bigger contribution. Welcome to today's show. Today is an amazing opportunity. Why? Because, have you ever been in a place and time where, number one, you were like, what's it like to be able to work with some of the best leaders in the world, right? Now, if you're a football player or a football coach, or maybe you've been in a sports realm, maybe you've heard of names like Sean Payton or Gary Kubiak or Bill Belichick, right? Or maybe you've heard of quarterbacks like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, the other guy, what's his name? Oh, Tom Brady. Tom Brady. Like, what do you think you could learn from working with these amazing coaches, these amazing organizations, working with these quarterbacks? And on top of that, what if you had the ability to succeed in an industry that is notorious for a very short shelf life? In fact, the shelf life is only about 2.2 years on average. And get this, our special guest expert today is someone who didn't make it 2.2 years. He wasn't drafted. He wasn't a high-profile star coming out of college. But through the grind, he exceeded all expectations. Why? He made it in the NFL for 8 years. He has a Super Bowl ring. He has played with Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, Gary Kubiak. He caught Peyton Manning's very last pass in the NFL. Now, all of that being said, you might be saying, well, Dan, this is more like business stuff. Like, what does this have to do with it? Well, what do you think you could learn about mindset? Today, our guest expert, his name is Bennie Fowler, by the way. Bennie is an NFL vet of over 8 years. He's one of the best people you'll ever meet. And today, he helps companies, maybe like you, maybe founders, executives, entrepreneurs, business owners, maybe like you, grow their business and profit 3 to 10 times. And today we're going to talk about the mindset for growth, the mindset of a champion, the mindset of building that championship team. So Bennie, it's awesome to have you here, my man. How are you?
Dan, man, appreciate that great introduction, man. Really appreciate that. That was awesome. So I'm great. How about yourself, man? Thank you for letting me be on the show.
Absolutely. Why don't I make this focus all about you today? Is that all right? I know we'll
let's not make it all about
or whatever.
Me. Let's not make it all about me.
And you're used to interviews like this after games and all that sort of stuff. So this is old hat for you. But I want to talk about, transition. Let's talk about transition, because transition is not always easy, right? We see it from people who maybe leave the corporate world, which there's been this influx of people leaving the corporate world to go start their own business. That's a transition. There are people who transition as entrepreneurs, right? I was watching a Netflix documentary here actually this morning, and it was talking about how, companies like Blockbuster basically got swept away because of the disruption of Netflix. Why? Because they didn't transition. They didn't pivot as effectively, right? They weren't ahead of the curve, right? Now, you were, someone who was not a draft pick out of college. You were a free agent signing. So that's transition, right? Number one, not getting drafted, then making a team, and then having to grind it out for 8 years, basically, in a world that's the ultimate meritocracy. Like, you earn what you get. And it's day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Like, that's got to be high. That's high stakes as it gets. Oh, yeah. My God. Like, talk about transition. Then, after 8 years in the NFL, you are now transitioning where you're out helping companies grow 3 to 10 times and taking all the things you've learned from all these great organizations, coaches, quarterbacks, your own journey, and helping them get success. So let's talk about transition. Like, what do you think is one of the big mistakes that most people make when they're looking at transition or pivoting, right, to kind of get ahead of the curve for the things that serve them?
I think people get away from themselves. I think the hardest thing for a business owner, an athlete, a CEO, anybody in transition is that they think they have to change their identity. And I hear people say all the time, athletes, I'm more than an athlete. Well, the athlete in you that is who you are. So you don't want to get rid of that identity. The CEO in you, you don't want to get rid of that identity, but how do you translate those skills into your next venture? So if I think about myself as a professional athlete, my discipline, my routine, the way I go about meeting new people in a locker room, the way I go about my process, the way I am adapting to a performance culture, having to adapt in real time, those are all things that you can actually transfer into life. And that's how you are. That's how I am as an entrepreneur. There is the discipline, there is the routine, there is the still taking care of my mind and body. There are a lot of those skills that made me a professional athlete transfer over into being a business owner and being a successful entrepreneur. And that's, that's the thing that I think that where people go wrong. I think Blockbuster, if you think about, how Netflix took them over, they just had to simply adapt to what Netflix was doing. They didn't have to change their whole identity. They had already built this incredible company. But I think even CEOs who get out of that position, they lose that logo, that loss of logo, that LOL. I think that's one of the biggest things that we all identify with, because we have this thing, we have this job title, we have this, hey, this is me, this is who I am, and we attach it to a logo of a team, a logo of a company, what I've built as an entrepreneur. You've even seen this, you've obviously seen this with founders, that they don't because their name is on it. But if you really want to do something great, you have to adapt, you have to adjust. I think, one of the best people that I've ever played with, the best quarterback, I think, in my opinion, of all time, Peyton Manning, he was great at in real time adjustments. He was always able to adjust. And I think that's what we have to do as business owners, as people, as parents, in relationships. We have to be able to adjust and adapt to different things. And I think that's one of the things that I struggled with as an entrepreneur early on, is that I thought that everybody was supposed to think like me or do things like me, and actually having to adjust and adapt to people and understand. I think that's what the pandemic really taught me, is that there are different perceptions, or there are different perspectives in the world, and how do I adapt to those things and meet people where they are? And that's what's helped my business grow.
Meet people where they are. And what I love about what you're sharing, Benny, is really, it's going to the core of simplicity. Right. Don't get too hung up on, it's like that old adage as an athlete, right? Don't get too big when the press is great, and don't get too low when the press is not. Right.
Exactly.
Stay in your lane, stay centered, right? Stay calm. And there's all kinds of different ways that's said, but like, you talking about loss of logo, right? Well, what is loss of logo? Like, your own identity is really just tuning into your tribe, your customers, whatever you want to call it, your clients, and really just understanding what they want. Right. And then being able to adapt as they may want, like, access, instead of it being, something they walk or drive down to a store or have late fees because of returning stuff. Now they can simply get it online streaming, right? But you already have the base of customers to connect to talk to get feedback from, to listen to just get into the conversation. And that's kind of something I hear as an underlying thing from what you're sharing now. As you have been on this journey, right? And you've been making the pivots that you have. Can you think back to, a time that was your personal greatest struggle? Maybe you were a free agent, right? And, from team to team, right? Like, it was helter skelter. Like, what did you do? What were some of the habits, some of the rituals that you used to kind of just stay in your lane and know everything was going to be all right? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I'm a faith-based guy, so I definitely lean on God and prayer. That's the number one thing. And if I think about, there are a couple tough times that actually stick out to me. One would be in 2017. I played 4 years in Denver, and it's now time to hit free agency. So the Chicago Bears came calling. They offered me some good money up front, and that's who I signed with. And now I'm living and playing in the city that my mom is already in. So everything seemed to be aligning. We got into training camp. We got to the end of training camp, and I got a call from the general manager, and she let me know that they were going to release me. So they were going to cut me. And right then and there, I was angry. I was upset. I was sad. I was embarrassed. I had just asked my now fiance to move out to Chicago with me and to leave her job. And now I'm without a job.
Mm.
And, right there, it's tough. What do? You thought everything was going to go perfect. And that was one of the toughest moments for me. And that's where, hey, I thought to myself, like, okay, if football doesn't come calling back, what am I going to do? And that's where I had the idea to write my book, Silver Spoon, The Imperfect Guide to Success, because at that point, I had had 4 great years in the NFL so far, won a Super Bowl, played with one of the best, if not the best quarterback of all time. But I wanted to inspire and share my story with other people, but also help other people understand that there are different ways to have and achieve success. So that's where I had that idea. And then a couple of weeks later, the Patriots come calling. I signed with the Patriots for only 1 week, but it was an opportunity for me to learn and play and be around Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, 2 of the best at what they do, and then ended up playing 2 years with New York. My second season with New York, I got cut twice in the same season. That was also another tough moment of, when I got cut after week 4, I was second on the team in catches. And then I got cut maybe like week 13 or 14. And the general manager just said, hey, you've been in the league a long time. It's just your turn. And I had no idea how to respond to that. And it was just a tough, tough moment. But that's when it was just like, okay, now I have to pay attention to the signs. I've been in the league for 6 years, like 22 years. So now how do I take the skills? What do I really love to do? What do I love to talk about? What could I talk about all the time? And that's leadership. That's performance. That's the mindset of what it takes to get to the top level in business, in life, in relationships, whatever it may be, coming from the household that I come from. So those are the 2 moments that really stick out to me. But what do I have to do? I have to learn of, okay, come back to who I am. What do I value? What's most important to me right now? And then lean on people. Who's your circle? I had people who were really close to me, my fiance, soon to be wife in a couple months, my dad, my mom, stepmom, my brother, my 2 sisters. And then I have a 4 or 5, what I call 2 a.m. friends. If I need them at any point in time, I can call them. And those are the people I leaned on just to be there for me and to support me. And that's how I kind of got through those tough times. But I also come back to that identity piece. Who am I really? And I am more than that football. I'm more than catching footballs. And then I was able to play a couple years even after that. So understanding that in tough times and tough moments, it's what are the possibilities? What are the opportunities there? And yes, that's tough in real time. But if you have those people around there with you, if you have a purpose statement, if you know who you are and you know where you want to be, you know the impact that you want to have in the world, it makes it a little bit easier.
Now, you just said something to me that I want to kind of tap into, because you said, I'm more than just a football player. Who am I really? Right. Which comes back to this identity, right? LOL,
Oh, yeah.
Loss of logo. So sometimes we can get hung up on all the exterior logos, right?
Right.
But then there's
Absolutely.
the interior logo. So speak to how critical, because you and I've had some private conversations about this in our own way, right? And like, speak to the importance of this, because you're really a young guy, right? And there's a lot of young men. There's a lot of athletes who transition from sports to, auto sports, call it high school, college, pro, whatever, that deal with this identity kind of crisis. Because here I was, this superstar athlete in relative terms, and now they're a nobody, or they feel like they're a nobody. Like, what am I going to do? They feel lost. They feel, and this happens in business, right? It happens for people who even exit companies if they don't have really that transition plan preset, pre-built. We've talked to so many entrepreneurs who've gone through that sort of thing. So speak to that for you, because I really loved what you said and how simple you really made it. But I want to get your take on it.
Yeah, well, I think you want me to give my take on knowing who you really are.
Who you really are beyond whatever that label. I'm more than in your case, more than a football player, more than a guy who catches passes. Who am I really? Speak to that.
Yeah, that takes time. And I didn't discover that on my own. So I'm not trying to make people seem or make it, make people look at me like, hey, he just has all the answers. No, I don't have all the answers. But as I was, just shooting darts out in terms of like what I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, I ran into this guy and we had a life-changing conversation. And I was telling him all my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. And he quickly pointed out, he's like, all these things are about you. None of these things are about anyone else. And I started crying. I was like, it was just super selfish in terms of everything that I was trying to achieve. A lot of it was external things and ego-driven things. And he said, what about other people? How are you going to get back to other people? How are you going to serve other people? And that's what led me to go into the coaching that I do now, the businesses that I'm partnered with to help people grow, to help people grow their revenue and profit 3 to 10 times. Yes, that's incredible, but that's incredible to help you impact your business, the people that work in your business, your family. So you have the more time, you have the freedom that you truly desire. And what I was really valuing and what he was able to uncover is that I really value family. I really value free time. I really value fun, but I was making it all about me. So how do I give back to other people in that way? And that was the conversation that really did it for me. But no, I definitely had the help of I didn't know he was an executive coach at the time, but he was awesome. I mean, and that's the one conversation I've had to make me build my business to where it is today. We haven't really we've connected a little bit after that. That 90 minutes, it was like, oh, I have to do this. I have to have these life-changing conversations. And then obviously you and I have talked, and I get super excited about this just because conversations are what drive everything. Relationships are what drive everything. I think one of my business coaches, she says the relationships are the real work of work. Like relationships just mean everything. And every time you're coming across somebody, having a conversation with somebody, that's a relationship. And I pride myself on building meaningful relationships.
And as you're watching or listening right now, let me ask you, like, what would it be worth for you to really get clarity around your identity, right? Beyond the, human doing stuff, but really focus on you as a human being. And a great place to start, Benny just shared, an ultimate secret with you. Like, what gives you joy in serving others? How can you serve others at a bigger level, right? How can you go out and contribute to others, right? When we take it off ourselves, a lot of times it becomes very clear and actually very almost effortless with what we're look to do next, right? In serving others, or how we show up, or what we set up to be able to do that, or our business, or like the next direction, the best pivot to be able to make is, how do we serve others? How do we serve somebody beyond us, right? And how do you pay forward? How do you, or give back, or, which kind of can be the same thing. But like, what if you took the time to answer those questions to get clarity? What do you think you might find, right? You're not a CEO. You're not a founder by itself. Yeah, those fancy titles are great. At the end of the day, though, could it be that you get the ability to transcend lives, transform lives, to make a bigger difference, to make a bigger impact? When we go beyond ourselves, which is all about our own personal significance, now we have the ability to go to the highest level of contribution, right? Now, Benny, we kind of wind this down today. You get to help companies, grow 3 to 10 times, right? With a lot of the, things you've learned and so on. So like, if you were going to give a series of, I don't know, steps or a little mini blueprint or a checklist, like what would be a couple steps somebody could look to take to be on the path to be able to 3 to 10x their profit and their business?
Yeah, if they're trying to 3 to 10 times their profit and revenue, it's 3 things that the company and I, what we really focus on. And that's a culture of performance, not just a culture, but a culture of performance. That's one of the main things that I've gotten from the NFL, a culture of performance. When you walk into an NFL locker room, you know what the standard is right when you walked in there. When I walked into the Denver Broncos facility, you see the 2 Super Bowl trophies that John Elway won. The standard was already there from the owner, Pat Bowlen, on down. We knew what we were there to do. So you could feel the energy in there. Now, it wasn't pressure, but it was exciting energy. It was championship pressure. Like, hey, we have the ability to do something. We have the ability to live and lead into our full potential and play to our full potential. And when we do, we're unstoppable. So a culture of performance, Sean Payton was really, really good at that. And one of the reasons why he's such a great coach is that he will not sign a player just because of talent. They have to fit into the culture that he has already built there. And I think, Bill Belichick the same way. There's a reason why there are only a couple coaches in the NFL that are always successful. You think about Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, never played for him, but has never had a losing season. There's a culture of performance there. So how do you create that culture of performance? Then you have your systems and processes, all the way from marketing, sales, profit and loss. Like, what are the systems and processes to get you to that revenue goal that you wanted to get to? If I think about processes from an NFL standpoint, if I join an NFL team today, right now, right before this playoff game, or even next week, Wednesday looks the same, Thursday looks the same, Friday looks the same, Saturday looks the same, all the way up until game day. And then game day, we have our first 15 plays to try to get out there and see what's going on. But after that, we've already put in the work. But there's a certain system and there's a process to getting what you want. And there's a certain system and process to winning and losing in sports, winning and losing in relationships, winning and losing in business. What are the systems and processes? Are people on the same page? Is the finance team, is the finance team and the marketing team, are they on the same page? So how do you get that? The sales team, are they on the same page? What are your systems and processes? And number 3, developing your emerging leaders. You have to develop your emerging leaders. Think about one of the main reasons why we won the Super Bowl, and this is hindsight 2020, but if I look back in the way Gary Kubiak did it, he would give Demarius and Emmanuel days off, Peyton days off during training camp, and he would say, hey, Bennie, hey, Cody, hey, Brock, you guys are now the starters, and you guys are going to get starter reps and know what it's like to have the ball come at you 8 or 9 times in a game, because you're only going to be as good as your weakest link. You're only going to be as good as your weakest sales member. So how do you build those emerging leaders, the people who will be running your company in the 10 to 15 to 20 years? How do you develop those people? I think about my dad and what he was able to achieve at Ford Motor Company. My dad started as a plant manager, started as an area manager, then became a plant manager, then went over to be a group vice president, COO of Jaguar and Land Rover, and then came back. But he started at the bottom, and Ford developed him up. They saw his capabilities, his skills as an emerging leader, and then they developed him, put him in different roles, put him in different ways to succeed, and developed him as a leader. That way you can keep it, and you have somebody who understands what's going on the ground floor, now who's up at the top floors, but knows how things are supposed to be ran. So those are the 3 things that you have to have to have focus on. Those a culture of performance, systems and processes, and developing your emerging leaders.
And I have a question as you're listening or watching right now. Like, what would happen for you if you put even more energy into focus, not just on a culture, not just on slogans and fancy taglines and I've got 3 key core values, but it was a focus of let's develop the culture and core values around performance. What would happen for you if you made your systems and processes even better? What would happen if you focused on just helping develop some of your leaders as emerging leaders even more? Right? There was a great book years ago by Pat Riley. He talked about the 1% solution. And the 1% solution says that if you just focus on a few key core areas of your team, in this case, let's use Bennie's main 3: culture of performance, systems, processes, developing emergent leaders. 1% each week compounded has exponential returns, not just week by week or month by month, but at the end of the year, you get this exponential impact where the tide lifts the boat. What would happen for you if you put something like that in place? Starting when? When would now be the best time? Which is something I say to my kid. Now.
right now.
When would now be the best time? So, man, Bennie, this is amazing. Now, if people want to connect with you, they want to learn more about what you're doing, your business interest, etc., where can they go to connect with you, Bennie?
They can go to LinkedIn to connect with me personally, one-on-one. But if they want to learn about more about their business and how we can help their business, it would be Portical, PORTOCOL.com.
Repeat that one more time.
Yeah, it would be Portical.com. So PORTOCOL.com.
So if you want to connect with Bennie, learn more about his story, connect with him. Maybe you're a publisher. Maybe you're someone who has a show. Maybe you're someone who is looking for an expert to speak in your company. It's really, Bennie makes it very simple to be able to connect with him, right? You can do that by going to LinkedIn, find him on LinkedIn, Bennie Fowler. We'll actually post the info in our show notes as we publish this here on the site at growthtofreedom.com, as well as at breakthrough3x.com. You can also learn more about Bennie and his company at Portical, PROTOCOL.com. If you're looking for a way to simplify, if you're looking for a way to get 3 simple systems in place, 3 simple steps: culture of performance, systems, processes, developing emergent leaders, work with Bennie and his entire team, go to Portical.com. That's Portical.com. Now, Bennie, I kind of like to shift the show a little bit. You may know this, to some like personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
On the journey of our success, if you will. And again, success is all relative. Like at the end of the day, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you think back, so I'm not gonna mention names of teams because I don't want to put you on the spot like that. But like if someone watches a show like Hard Knocks, for example, maybe it's current season or through the last handful of years of Hard Knocks. Like you can see there's a different focus of culture, even based on like the locker room.
Oh yeah.
Right. Of some teams. And I'll give it again. I won't mention teams, but if you think of like Jerry Jones and what he's done with the Cowboys, like you look at their locker room, their facilities, like I don't know how it gets better. Right. But then I see some of the other locker rooms in Hard Knocks, and I almost feel like it's not quite this way because it's certainly better than this. It's not as good as a lot of the college locker rooms. Right.
Yeah.
So speak to even how it shows up, like how you show up, right? Overall.
Yeah, I think what Jerry Jones is doing is he's leaving no stone unturned in terms of what he expects out of his players. Like, hey, if I'm going to provide all these great things, I expect great performances. Now, it hasn't always led to, playoff teams for him, but, I think he believes in making a first-class organization. And, NFL locker rooms won't always look like college locker rooms because they don't have to recruit us. They're already paying us. So, that's kind of how they go about it. But it depends on those owners, and how they want players to show up. If I think about some of the locker rooms that I've been in, and it correlates to the performance that goes on the field. Everything matters. So like we were talking about a culture of performance. Well, a great culture of performance has a great environment. I got a chance to go to Matt Ishbia's United Wholesale Mortgage. It's a company based out of Michigan. Matt Ishbia, shout out to Matt Ishbia, a great Spartan. But I got a chance to go visit his 9,000 square foot campus. And the type of environment that he had there, the culture that he had there, it bred success. And you could see his employees showing up for him, the way they were going about work. But he made such a beautiful campus in terms of you never have to leave there. They got chiropractors, doctors there. They got the Starbucks in there. They have a Hunter House Hamburgers, which is a famous restaurant in Michigan there. They have everything in the facility, in that environment to help people be successful, to keep people happy, full court gym, access to all the weights and anything that anybody needs. But there's a standard there. So he has a high standard, but he also has made it to where his employees have the same standard for themselves, but also he's giving to them. So you see that in different locker rooms, and it depends on what organization. I've been fortunate enough to play with all great organizations and great owners, so I haven't had any bad experiences. But I have heard some horror stories about locker rooms and eating stadium food and like that.
And it's amazing because as you're watching or listening right now, you're like, well, Dan, what does this have to do with business? So let's go to culture of performance, right? I'm not Jerry Jones. I'm not Elon Musk. So I'm just this small business, and we consider small business 10 million or under. At the same time, how you do anything is how you do everything. And it starts with who? It starts with you. And why do I bring this up? I had here's a damaging confession. Like in my early years, this goes back in the early 90s, right? I had a mentor at the time, and she had come into our office, and we did presentations and all this stuff, and she kind of was just observing throughout most of the day. And when we were done, she came and sat at my desk and started giving some feedback. And so she saw me open a drawer to pull out because I was going to take some notes, because I'm a big note taker. And I opened my drawer, and she reaches over the desk and she goes, hold on a minute. And she opens the drawer back up. She goes, Dan, look at that drawer. What's wrong there? She's really good at asking questions, not like just fire hosing answers. She goes, what's wrong there? I said, I'm not sure. She goes, I'm sitting here as your mentor, and I see your desk, and you open a drawer that's just an absolute tire fire. It's just a mess. Things scattered everywhere, just a bunch of papers and pens just thrown in there. She goes, if you can't organize you, how do you ever expect others to trust that you can help organize them? And I think that speaks at a level to what you're describing as a culture of performance, locker rooms, offices, right? Not that you have to be a neat freak, but create an environment where, like, when someone walks in, like if Bill Belichick walked in our office, like, what would we want Bill Belichick to feel, or Nick Saban? They won't say anything, but subconsciously many times, and she even said that. She said, Dan, they won't tell you this. I won't, someone other than me calling you out on this won't tell you this right up front, but subconsciously they'll just feel something's off.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So how can you set your business, set up your locker room, set up your team, set up your culture to win? So Benny, another quick question. What do you think is the biggest thing you learned? You had multiple years with Peyton Manning, right? What do you think's the biggest thing you learned from Peyton Manning?
I mean, that's a laundry list of things right there. If I had to take,
the biggest thing?
If I had to take just one, is that everyone is important in terms of reaching the goal. Everyone. And when I think about, watching Peyton interact with people, or knowing everybody in the building by their first name, or having lunch with the custodial staff, or taking time out to give them the biggest bonuses out of his own pocket. In order to win a Super Bowl, everybody matters. In order to triple or 10x your profit and revenue, everyone matters. And I think that's one of the things that the biggest thing that I learned from him is that everybody matters when you're trying to do something great. You can't do it by yourself. Everybody's going to matter. Offense, defense, special teams, front office staff, back office staff, custodial staff, kitchen staff, PR staff, and the fans. Everybody matters.
Everybody matters. As you're running your business right now, does everybody matter? Does your janitor matter? Right? Does your VA matter? Does your team matter? And how are you letting them know that they matter? Right? Yeah. Low level, high level, everywhere in between. What happens when you make people feel that they belong to something big, to something bigger than them, and that they matter? It matters, and it can transform your business. Now, I think I know the answer to this, but I don't want to feed you it. So who is the person that you feel has had the biggest influence on you, and why?
I would say my brother. My brother, he has had the biggest influence on me. My brother tore his ACL 3 times before he graduated high school, and went on to go to a prep school for 1 year, then got a full ride scholarship to Central Michigan, where he was a 4-time captain, all-time leader in assists, top 10 in points, and led them to a MAC championship. gets a D League or plays in the D League, the NBA D League for a little bit, and then plays basketball overseas. That's somebody who never stopped. That's somebody who didn't let the circumstances define him. And, that's why I dedicated my book to him. And that's who my hero is in terms of just all of that right there at a young age. I mean, towards ACL at 11, then 15, and then 16. And then to make it to where he's made it to, and now coaching basketball at Northern Arizona, that's the person who had the biggest influence on me. And that's somebody I will always constantly continue to lean on, even though I'm the oldest of four. That is, that's somebody that, is always going to be, who influenced me the most.
Now, that's amazing. As you're listening right now, think about the importance of influence, right? Now, maybe you don't have a brother like Bennie, right? But do you have a friend? Do you have someone nearby, right? People come in and out of our life for reasons. It could be potentially that they are serendipitous mentors for you. There's a reason everything happens, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? But at the end of the day, what can you learn? What can you take away? Bennie being here today may be a serendipitous mentor for you, and I hope he is, because there's so much wisdom that he's got at such a young age to be able to do. And by the way, if you want to go learn more about what Bennie's doing, again, go to LinkedIn. You can look him up there. We'll have the links in the show notes at growthtofreedom.com, breakthrough3x.com. If you want to check out what Bennie's company is doing and how they help companies grow 3 to 10x, applying the 3 principles we talked about earlier, go to portacol.com. That's portocol.com, portacol.com. Bennie, what's the biggest or toughest thing that maybe you miss being out of the game?
The biggest or toughest thing that I'm missing not playing now?
Yeah.
Just the rush of running out there on a Sunday. That's, all the preparation, all the hard work you put in to run out there, run out of the tunnel on a Sunday. I mean, that's why you see a lot of guys just, pointing to the sky, thanking God. There's a lot of people, who get emotional before games because all the work that it takes to get up to a Sunday it's a lot of behind the scenes work. We're in a building at 6 a.m., don't leave till 4 or 5, massages, ice baths, just constant things to go out there and to bring entertainment and joy to other people.
The rush on Sunday. Yeah. What are you doing to set up your rush on a Sunday or whatever your day of the week is, right? Are you reflecting, right, on the ability to be grateful for what you get to do every single week, every single moment, every single day, right? There's so much parallel between sports and business. So the 2 greatest platforms for personal development in the world, right? And Bennie's just kind of giving you a glance, and I wish we had more time with Bennie. And again, if you want to learn more about Bennie, go to LinkedIn, check out Bennie Fowler. If you want to go check out his company, what he does, go to portacol.com. That's portacol.com. Bennie, what's something I should have asked you that we haven't covered yet?
I don't know. This has been a great conversation. I would like to just give a shout out to my parents and the role that they played, my mom and my dad and my stepmom as well. But, my mom and my dad, they really laid the foundation, and it's important in terms of who you are, how parents are talking to their kids, how they're encouraging their kids. When I think about my mom and dad and how they encouraged my brother, myself, my stepmom with my dad, encouraging my sisters, but my mom and my dad and how they encouraged my brother and myself to not necessarily be professional athletes, but to be and do the best you possibly can with what you have. So, yeah.
What are 1 to 3 action steps you hope our viewers, our listeners take from our time together today?
Clarity brings power. So just continue to get clear on what you want. What's your North Star? Where you're going? Where do you want? How do you want to feel at the end of 2022? For them to continue to lean and learn from you. And the third would be, if there's any way that I can help, reach out to me on LinkedIn and send me a message, Breakthrough 3X, put that in the message. knowing that I know that you heard me here, and then we'll have a conversation. But I just hope people continue to live and lead into their full potential. That's what the world needs.
Leave and live into your full potential. He's Bennie Fowler. We're at growth2freedom.com, breakthrough3x.com. If you want to learn more about Bennie, go to LinkedIn, look up Bennie Fowler. Again, we'll have all the links in our show notes, and or check out his company at portocol.com. That's portocol.com. That's portocol.com. Bennie, I know I promised we'd get this done in a certain amount of time. Man, I'm just so grateful for our friendship, our ability to have worked together. We've also got to give a shout out to Keith Roberts, who was the instigator of us getting together. And I hope, I hope
shout out to the Zen Man,
have the ability to help each other.
the Zen Man, Keith Roberts. That's one of my favorite people. So yes. Shout out to Keith.
Absolutely. So there you have it. I encourage you, take action with what Bennie has shared with you today, right? I've got a handful of pages of notes here, but he talked about a lot of things. He talked about working with Peyton Manning and his ability to adjust. He talked about his book, The Silver Spoon, right? He talked about being cut a couple times and overcoming that adversity. He talked about, who's in your circle, right? Lean on your circle in down times, right? Lean on the people that are in what you would call your 2 a.m. emergency circle. He talked about, who am I really, right? He gave you some tips on how to move away from a potential dangerous identity to a life-changing, transformative, transcending identity, simply as, how do I serve others more? How do I help others more? How do I pay forward? How do I give back? He talked about 3 things as far as looking at your business in unique ways. The culture, not just of culture, but a culture of performance. He talked about the systems and processes that build your business and developing emerging leaders. These ideas, these concepts not only work in sports, in the NFL, with billion-dollar franchises, they'll work with and for you. And again, if you want to learn more about Bennie, go check out LinkedIn, go check out his company at portocol.com. That's portocol. I encourage you, take action with what Bennie has shared with you. Clarity is power, and we are here to lead and live. Take action, seize the day, right? If you want to come back to this episode, you can go to growth2freedom.com. That's growth2freedom.com. If you want to learn more about our company, our business, you can go to breakthrough3x.com, the sponsor of the show. That's it for today. Seize the day. Make it a great week. We'll see you next time on growth2freedom.com. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of growth2freedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day? Or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, then I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growth2freedom.com.